Hey, let's start by saying there's an ebb and flow to the game of baseball. It's never static. It started well before Babe Ruth started swinging for the fences. The ball was dead. The ball was hard. This has changed back and forth. We tend to think of what has happened most recently. So when we think of run scoring in baseball now, we compare it to the steroid or rocket ball era of 14 years ago because that ball was juiced too. And we think that run scoring is at an all-time low. In fact, it is not. It has been trending down steadily, but take a look. Since 2014, take a look at 2014. It was the 13th lowest in run scoring since the live ball era in 1920. Since 1900, what we call the modern era, it's the 27th lowest run scoring season. So right now, we're at run scoring levels of the mid-60s and early 70s. It's not time to panic. Think about, though, what we should learn from just that statement that I just said. Run scoring right now is back down to the levels of the early 70s. If I had told you that in 2001, that we'd be back to the Horace Clarke, Felix Millan era of run scoring, you would have laughed at me. So it's instructive. If you think things are always trending, never stopping, give it some time. You might be surprised. So let's dig a little deeper now. Take a look at this. Not just how many runs are being scored, but how they are being scored. Look at that whole list. Home runs per game, 2014, 33rd lowest since 1920. So that's fairly normal, right in line with 1985, for example. Total bases per game, 35th lowest. Overall hits, 10th lowest. Doubles per game, that's normal, 62nd fewest, right in line with years like 1939, 1924. But now here's where we have an issue. Look at singles per game. That means it's the second fewest of all time. And the lowest 5 years for singles are all the last 5 years. All right, walks per game, 4th lowest in the live ball era. So, okay, that's a problem. It's very low. The recent study in the Hardball Times should be taken very seriously because with players these days being properly schooled in plate discipline, so many of them incentivized to work the count, take pitches, take the free base. The fact that this is the low point in bases on balls is alarming. Now, Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports cited a source in the league office saying they would take a closer look at the strike zone, if they should change the zone a little bit. I think that's a good idea. The league office, working with the umpires, have done a great job of implementing technology and conforming the umpires to the actual strike zone. But we're at a point now where perhaps, I'm just being easy here, perhaps we've gone too far. For years during the hormone era, the strike zone had shrunk to a postage stamp. Well, that's been reversed. That thing is large now. Ratchet it back a little bit. So let's get to the next issue, the pressing issue. If you look at year by year, of the highest percentage of strikeouts in the game, the top 21 years are all from the last 21 years. Think about that. Each of the last 7 seasons, we've broken the previous record for strikeouts. It's climbing. Beyond that, though, the highest 21 seasons for strikeouts are all from 1994 to 2014. That's more than a trend. I mean, we're playing a different game now. Now, even with walks being down at historic levels, the 3 true outcomes over the last 3 years are at an all-time high. The 3 true outcomes are strikeouts, walks, home runs. The 3 true outcomes have been over 30% for 3 years. That means the ball is not even in play nearly a third of the time. This is not the game of baseball that was played for most of the last century. In the 30s to the 1980s, for example, the ball was not in play between 17% and 25% of the time. That's the game we know. The ball needs to be in play. The ball in play is what makes baseball exciting. We need a better pace of play. Baseball is addressing that this year, but to be exciting and stay as popular as it's been, it's not more runs necessarily that's needed. It's more action, the ball being hit, the ball being chased, the ball being fielded. Here now are some suggestions, if we may, to the league office. 1, don't overreact. There's an ebb and flow to the run scoring and how these runs are scored. Attendance per game last year in Major League Baseball, 7th best all time. Run scoring is not killing the game. All right, 2, don't limit innovation and strategy. Leave shifts and relief pitchers alone. Let offenses adjust. Hitters don't have to take a big cut with 2 strikes or pull the ball into a shift. Those who can't adjust will suffer. Those who can adjust will flourish. Maybe we need a new wave of player who doesn't swing with a massive uppercut, who instead slashes the ball, hits for singles. Maybe that wave is now playing in Japan. Maybe that wave is now waiting for an innovative manager now coaching 13-year-olds in Georgia or California or Montana or upstate New York. But this style of hitting, that style, the slashing, hit them where they ain't, was prevalent in the 1920s. Hit for singles. It can be done. It can come back. All right, and 3, we do want the ball in play more. This is where we're at an all-time low. Tinker with the strike zone. Experiment with thicker bats. Bill James has made that suggestion. Encourage teams and players to counter the strikeout epidemic. Little changes can mean a lot. Start now, but slowly. Let the game flow back on its own. If it doesn't, nudge it in the right direction. Well, glad Rob Manfred is open to things that will help the game. The new commissioner has said that. He's been open about it. They certainly should look at it. But run scoring, as a fan, you should know it's low. Not historically low, not terribly low. We need to start paying attention to strikeouts and the ball in play.